Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of PoCommunity. On today's episode, I welcome Kyle Balzer from Tri-City News. We talk about everything journalism as well as the Bill C-18 that has recently just been issued, where Meta is blocking all news to Canadians. So that was a very interesting topic that you're definitely going to want to hear Kyle's opinion on. Check it out. Kyle, how's it going today?
It's going good, Mike. How about yourself?
It's going great. I'm so happy to have you on the show today.
Happy to be here, man. Most comfortable couch you've ever sat on. I will admit that freely. This is amazing.
That's a great compliment.
I don't know what it is, but it is amazing.
It's actually the first time we've heard that. So it's a great compliment. I'm very happy to hear that because we want our guests to be comfortable, obviously. But yeah, I am so happy that you're on today. Very interesting day because while we're recording, there's some major news. It didn't just affect your industry today. It's been known for a while, but it feels like it just happened today. Bill C-18, you work for the Tri-City News.
Yes.
What do you do with Tri-City News again?
I am the digital, online, and social media reporter. So you see me out at events taking photos and video. I'm on our TikTok account. I write stories for our online website as well, try to be more digital friendly, and just looking for stuff that pertains to a wider audience that views digital first.
Yeah, that's I noticed a huge amount of just more just content going out there since you've come on to the Tri-City News.
Glad to hear it.
It's been very obvious actually. I've noticed it, and it's great to see. So yeah, and just the fact that you've been so supportive yourself. Tri-City News has been supportive of us, but you yourself, since you've come on, you've done so much for us. Like you just promotion.
Well, again, I mean, this is a really wonderful studio. I mean, you get people of all industries to come in and just to coexist. You offer lots of resources that they can use on their own time, and just a space like this to create their own content. Like, people need a space to be creative, to be informative, like this podcast, to be just one with the community in whatever way that looks like. And I believe that's what TFN stands for.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
100%. And it's like where I see you guys are going now too. It's more online content. And the reason I personally feel like to have the Tri-City News, you want to concentrate on the Tri-Cities and you want to promote the Tri-Cities and you want people in the Tri-Cities to know what's going on. And with social media and just media in general, the use of it, that in today's times, the youth of today's, that's the only way they're getting their information. So if you're only feeding it out through a certain, like let's say your newspapers, but like I know today that they're not going out anymore.
Our last
physical
today.
copy.
Yeah.
But it's in the past, that's how people got their information. But when you actually talk about like the community of the Tri-Cities, a lot of the youth had no idea what was going on. A lot of people don't know like there's stuff to do in this city. When they go look up like local events or something on their Google, it would bring you right to Vancouver right away. So like with the Tri-City News, like really getting on board with like promotion with media, I just think it's crucial for this industry, especially now, or as I said earlier, Bill C-18, Meta, what's going on with that today, the big old, we don't allow news in Canada, on our website.
It's very interesting times, needless to say, and it's as a reporter, someone in the industry, it is very frustrating. I guess for those who don't know, I guess just the gist of it would be like there are some media companies that got a little more greedier than they thought they should. The government was approached and they agreed that they thought that maybe they could give big social media giants to pay to have their news content on their sites. The social media giants, i.e. Meta and Google, said no, and we're going to block you in retaliation, and it's tit for tat ever since. Yeah. So there is something to be argued that both sides are to blame for this, unfortunately, and it completely backfired too. That's the one thing, because obviously the government thought that this was going to be a great idea, but again, they got blocked, or we're getting blocked. And when I say we, I mean small local community publications, because it's some of the bigger companies that got involved and wanted to have some sort of revenue in here, but the smaller markets, Tri-City News included, is going to suffer pretty drastically because of what's happened. Like now, Facebook, our news is blocked. We can't really post to Instagram anymore. For the record, though, we can post to these social media accounts, and there are some who are still seeing it as it's being phased out, but it's like very minimal now. So we're now looking to other avenues where we can deliver content that people are wanting and need, especially during times where they want to be involved in the community. They want to be involved in local politics, art, music, sports, whatever the shebang may be. And that's where we as community news come into play, and we are absolutely critical. But like the industry, we have to adapt, and we need to just find ways to be the best that we can be. That's pretty much what it is at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's. I mean, that your industry is something. Evolution has happened throughout it.
Mm-hmm.
You guys had to learn. It's a lot like the music industry, right? Like I feel like
Totally.
it had its way of doing things, and how many times it's been like a brick to the face had to change, and so much so to the early 2000s with MP3, where it was just like, how do we make this work for our industry and everybody involved in it still, when everything is changing, like everything that they've learned in the past pretty much goes out the window. We talked, you mentioned that papers are no longer going out today. When I heard the news, I did see a lot of local uproar about it, but in reality, it wasn't cost effective, right? So you see it from both sides. As a business owner myself, I see the positives, not positive, that's the wrong word, but just I see the reasoning behind it, as much as everybody likes that physical newspaper.
Yeah.
And I think there's like that old school just mentality and vibe to it, where it's something that has been part of a lot of our lives forever. You want to see that, but everything evolves. Everything is going to move on. And I think challenges in all industries, kind of, when you have these kinds of challenges come your way, you to keep it going, you have to figure out the best possible way to keep doing it. And 100%. So you guys have already, I think the last 20 years of kind of the Tri-City News have probably had to deal with adversity, and just like, how do we deal with this industry changing so much? Now, though, it just seems like it's almost a continuation of keeping the small guy down. I don't know if it just seems like the last few years has been a lot of that.
I mean, COVID definitely did not help with that either. Like the pandemic was very, very unforgiving when it came to like keeping a newsroom together, for one thing. Like, because of people staying in and people not really, companies not really generating the revenue that they were looking for, they had to make cutbacks, and that's just how it happened. And it affected everyone, not just media, but a lot of other industries as well. And then, you try to stay afloat as much as you can, and then the next thing hits you, i.e. Bill C-18, and now we have to restart again, essentially. Like, we need to figure out what works best for us. And yes, the COVID-19 pandemic also took a bit of a turn when it comes to like how we perceive media, community, people, and that's where we had to step in as reporters, neutral reporters, to make sure that we are still being as informative about everything that people need to know. Because if you're not in touch with your community, in my opinion, where are you? You're stuck in a basement to yourself. And I mean, there are people who are fine with that, totally. But I believe it's important to be connected with community, because you need people in your life. You need to experience new things. You need to learn a new culture. You need to learn how to thrive in your own society. Otherwise, you're left out and you may not have a say in what happens.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to like politics. Like I've always been on the philosophy that we have this right to vote, so go and vote. And if you don't, you don't get to complain because you're not the one that put your vote forward. So in journalism, we hear every story and we try our best to share all the stories possible because someone in the community will be impacted by the story and it could alter their course of life or at least provide some sort of motivation for what they can do in their lives. Media has a big role in that, and it's one of the reasons why I got into the industry, absolutely.
Yeah, let's get into that. Like, what was the driving force for you to get into this industry?
Well, I guess I made the choice to go into broadcasting in my grade 12 year, halfway through my grade 12 year in high school, because before that I wanted to be an architect. Talk about a complete 180. I was the sports representative on student council, so I did a lot of the morning announcements and I led some pep rallies, and someone approached me and said, have you ever thought about going into broadcasting? And that's where it started. I went to BCIT for schooling, where even there, one course was specifically for online and social media journalism, because as of the last decade and a half, this is where journalism has been and will be for a long time. So we had that kind of course, and of course, I was there for 2 years. It's a 2-year program. It's a great program. I recommend it for anyone, and I'm not just being biased. It's the one time in my life where I can be biased as someone in the media. And then from there on, I worked in Abbotsford. I worked in Surrey, and before I came to Tri-Cities, I spent the last 5 years in Prince George, which was great for a starting job. I was in the local radio station there for several years before I got pulled into the digital side of journalism. And yeah, it was just, I realized I loved informing people on what was happening in school to start and then in the community next. Just so that get people excited about it. People like something that people need to know because it could have an impact on what they do the next day or the next week or something like that. So it always invigorated me to kind of be that medium, that voice that can tell people what they need to know and why they need to know, more importantly. Yeah. So that's how I got involved, and I've very much enjoyed it ever since. It has its moments, it has its mental moments. I will admit when the information is just coming your way, especially in today's day and age where everything is online and coming at you straight. You have those days where it's very hard on you mentally speaking, but at the end of the day, if you can breathe, eat, sleep, and just be yourself, that makes it all worthwhile, I think. Yeah,
100%. You brought up the fact that as a journalist, supposed to be neutral. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like I almost like COVID.
It's really hard to kind of call reporters neutral these days. Yeah, I totally understand.
And it's almost like COVID started something where neutrality went out the window, and it was opinion-based journalism, which is fine if you're promoting it as that. But if it's only one side of any argument being pushed, the narrative, it's going to anger people. I feel like what has happened in the last few years with media is everything has become political, which is not how it should be.
I agree.
And it really feels like it's. To be completely honest, when it comes to local papers and stuff, it feels like that's the only place is giving you legit information. I felt if I was reading a mainstream publication, it didn't feel like it was straight up truth all the time. To the point where it's being like openly talked about and real facts are being put out there about funding and all this stuff, but. The local news is really, I feel like you guys have always been what you're supposed to be, genuinely.
Yeah. I hope so, at least.
Yeah,
that's what you hope to be perceived as. I mean, obviously, people are going to have their opinions, and they're by all means entitled to them.
Yeah.
But journalism has always been about neutrality, and there are several factors that have come into play the last several years, like you said, COVID being one of them, that have unfortunately divided people based on what they perceive. Some true colors have come to light on whatever view that may be, and we honestly do our best. We really do. Like if it's a very pressing issue that needs both sides of the coin, then we do our best to make sure that we bring both to light, especially on certain like very specific topics. When it comes to politics being the biggest one, obviously, because there are moments where, you know, it can turn political, like whatever you're writing. And you have your columnists, you have your opinion writers, you have your editorialists, and there's always room to have those up there, no problem. And again, we try our best to get as many up there as we possibly can to a point, because we don't want someone to post on our website just bashing somebody. I mean, come on. That's not how you conduct proper criticism. So we do our best with that. And like, I have always been trying to be on the goal of being that neutrality and not trying to venture an opinion, because it's the whole point of a community paper is to represent the community. You don't represent one person. You don't represent one party. You don't represent one politician or one business or the other. You represent an entire community, and in our case, 3 cities and 2 villages. Shout out to Amor and Belcara. We do our best to reach out to every one of them, especially the ones that may feel like they're not being talked about or perceived as they believe they should. Because that's the whole point at the end of the day, community paper. So. Or community publication at this point, I should say.
It's so true though, and I think what's gone out the window is the idea that conversation between people with different ideologies is a bad. It's like they promote it as a bad thing. Like you can't get along with people, parts of your community, people in your community if you have difference of opinion. And I'm not saying like if like it's to a point where it's hate speech or like you're like there's certain topics out there that are just like on both sides of the spectrum are just it's outrageous with how people are reacting to one another. But when it comes to certain political ideologies, you don't have to hate each other. And I don't know if media has social media especially has gained like their content has it's been good for them, essentially people arguing with one another online. But in reality, what happens online does not work in real life, but I feel like they're trying to make it work in real life, where you can't have a difference of opinion with anybody and get along with them. Can't have a sane argument, can't have a proper debate, can't be civil. And social media has a big factor in that for sure, because it's a lot of people screaming into the void. Something we haven't heard of, at least haven't heard continuously. And that's where the double-edged sword comes in, because you have people who are just there to scream into the void, or who choose to rag on somebody because they don't agree with what they're saying. And then, of course, we try to deliver a neutral product, news that matters most to people, and then the comments ensue, however that may be perceived. So it's sometimes it's just hard to look at, to be completely honest with you. Like for some stories that come up where people are just completely divided on whatever issue it may be or whatever announcement it may be, it's just really hard at times to like look at these comments and see how people really feel about their neighbors, their coworkers, their teachers, their mayors, athletes, whatever it may be. Because gone are the days to be civil in terms of online presence. Obviously you wish there would be some sort of common ground, and we just can't block everybody, and nor do we want to block anybody. Obviously we don't appreciate when someone drops an F-bomb or whatever, because that's not proper. But the lines of communication still need to be open, and we try to let that be open to an extent where no one is flat out being rude or racist or just completely
ignorant of what other people or communities might feel.
Yeah.
Because we're all human at the end of the day. And that's what people need to realize, I think, because it's important to be a good person or to be a respectful person above all. Respect is very big, and you need to earn it. So hopefully people go out there and at least try to earn it, because it's very rare, and it's important to be human at the end of the day. In my opinion, journalists are human too, by the way.
Yeah.
So we do our best. We go to events like you guys. We eat, we drink, we sleep, we have families, and we try to do our best to be good people at the end of the day. So
yeah, and I just think it's very hard not to have an opinion nowadays.
Yep.
So it will drive into all your work. So no matter what industry you're working in, this is where I brought up politics has kind of gotten involved in everything. It just seems like any decision you make on anything, you're going to be judged politically. If that makes any sense, it's weird.
Oh, it does.
It's
yeah.
very bizarre.
Well, especially if you're a politician.
Yeah, if you're a politician, especially. Yeah. But like,
you're under a microscope. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, and like I didn't want to really get into like manipulation of government on media. I don't want to bring it up because it's such a double-edged sword when it comes to people and what they think. But in reality, it's come out as truth when it comes to like what they can manipulate journalists to do on a bigger. It's a bigger stage essentially, because that's who you're talking to the majority of people. That when you read everything that a mainstream publication or see everything that they're promoting, but everything seems to be backwards than that. Like we're watching like politicians basically straight up lying, and they are. And even back in the day, journalists would be like, "Hey, you're lying," but they're just going along with whoever's funding them, and that's where I think people are kind of just fed up in a way where social media can be. Another thing with social media is it's created this realm where people can make whatever they believe be fact. If you go on X, Twitter, whatever, if you go on X, and
that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, and you go, and it's only going to tell you what you want to hear. That's the thing, like or the opposite. It will want to and bring you in to suck you into argue, and that literally people, if they're on these social media platforms all day, they're in a world that everybody feels this way. But when you actually look at like independent pollsters and stuff and on big levels doing these polls, it's completely contradicting what's being pushed on the other side. And I think people are starting to see that, but I also think people can't talk about it. And I think that's a lot to do with more of the censorship. It's like people, if you question it and you come up, you're getting attacked online. So I think there's a lot of silent people right now. There's a lot of people just not speaking.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of skittish, obviously, because you want to venture an opinion, but someone is going to see what you have said, not agree with you, and then flat out attack you, and they won't stop until you cave in.
Yeah.
And again, it's just sad that people actually spend their time on just scrolling on their phones, scrolling on their laptops, scrolling on their mobile devices, looking for a way to scream into a void, try to get you to buckle down and to prove that only they are right and you're wrong. And that's just how, unfortunately, most of our society has become, because we've become so divided between whatever the issue may be. Like more, I'd argue that we're more outspoken now because of the events of the last several years, because it has truly brought out the true colors in everybody.
Yeah.
And like I said, at the end of the day, you just need to be civil. You're allowed to have a civil debate conversation. Yeah. You're allowed to argue the facts. You're allowed to give your side of the story. But let's try to be, if you're not doing this professionally, try to be civil about it.
Yeah, that's the only way those people are going to change.
I'm in no way a preacher or anything like that. I'm in no way trying to get people to get along or whatever, as much as everybody would like to see that. But I'm just simply saying, like, it's better to be a respectful person at the end of the day than it is to be someone who just looks for a way to, like, bring people down, and because that's no good for anybody, not even for the society as a whole. You need to have some sort of positivity in your life.
Yeah, you have to have the conversation, because if somebody has a really, let's say they have a very poor ideology on something, and it's not even because it's just how they were raised. That's something like the only way they're going to change that bad ideology is a respectful conversation and debate. And then it's like they get clue in to somebody talking respectful to them about how they feel this way, and maybe that will change their perspective on something. But when it's you're an idiot, nobody's going to start a conversation well with one another when they're being called names. It's just and that's where I think we're at, and it's quite sad, because it's people. It's the worst sides of people, and it really it's being driven up to like level 1000 when it comes to how just passionate people are about how they feel. But some people, if they just delivered it in a different tone, in a respectful way, get their point across. The amount of just people coming to terms with one another and not looking at it as an argument it would be huge. And it's not happening very much. Actually, I'll say when it comes to like our business, like here, people on all walks of life, all different sides of the fence politically, everything. What we've seen here since we've been open during the pandemic, everything is people can get along and be a community. And
I agree completely.
Be completely opposite when it comes to how they think, but collaborate. We've had people that are part of the Conservative Party here, Green Party, that when they are in this office together, best of friends, right? Like you would never know, but they have different ideologies on how they think government should be. Other than that, you would go out for a beer and have fun together. And that is reality. That's how I think it's always should be. It always should be, and always has been up to a certain point lately, where it's just extremism on both ends, and it's just not healthy. I think like journalists have so much power. I don't think you know when you're getting into it how much power you can actually have the further you climb up that ladder in the industry. But like, we need more people and journalists like you that see this and you want to bring news forward, the actual news forward to people. And that I appreciate so much. I wanted to go to, like, I put my name in for BCIT years ago. I wanted to get into journalism.
Oh, yeah?
Tons of people wanted to get into journalism.
Oh, yeah, it's very difficult.
I took an entrance exam. I was right at the top of the people that didn't get accepted. Went into another course. Yeah, wait list. Went into another course for music production, just a different sound engineering and stuff. Halfway through the semester at Langara, I get a call from BCIT allowing me in there. I couldn't. I was already committed.
You were already committed.
And
yeah.
I'm kind of. I would say podcasting is a weird form of journalism in a way.
It's a little out there for sure, but it's also it engages people like what you and I are doing right now. Like obviously, it's an informal way to have a respectful conversation and cater to those who enjoy the medium. Yeah. And podcasting. I've actually gotten a lot more into podcasting myself since the pandemic started. A lot of the people that I follow on social media or just in media in general started their own podcasts. I have my own niche podcasts as well. And I just appreciate the fact that they get to like talk about these things in an neutral setting, in an informal but engaging way. And it hooks you in. It hooks you into the conversation. Like they can't hear you, obviously, but you are able to at least venture an opinion about what's being put on the table. So again, something like this is great. I'm sorry you didn't get to BCIT right away. Yeah, I hope it wasn't the same year as me. Maybe I was also waitlisted once. Yeah. But then I got in the next year. Nice. So it is a very competitive program, and I imagine it's more competitive now considering the state of the industry and how it's evolving, and that everybody who wants to be a broadcaster or be a journalist in any way, shape, or form wants to have to try, give it the old college try, literally. So, but it's such a competitive program. You have to go to other schools if you want to, but they really want the people who are actually going to put the work in.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing about journalism at the end of the day. You have to put in the work.
Yeah.
You could spend all day long copy and pasting press releases onto your own website and not write a thing, but it's not good journalism.
Yeah.
You're not digging. You're not being more informative. You are not adding photos, videos, social media embeds. You're not putting in the work that will give people more of what they need to know instead of what the person sending the release wants you to know.
Yeah.
There could be more. There may not be more, but you got to put in the work. You got to do the job. You got to make sure that you are catering to every single person that comes to your website, because you don't know who's going to come to your website. It could be someone one end spectrum here, one over here, one in the middle. It could be anybody, but you have to cater to everybody. And that's what community news is all about. You have to cater to the community at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's very true. And I know, like, you hear the story of many successful broadcasters, journalists. You brought up the fact that you said Prince George, Abbotsford, where else do you say?
Surrey.
Working for all these publications. I hear the same. I'm a huge sports radio guy. Grew up loving sports radio. You never hear about, like, a guy growing up in Vancouver and getting that Vancouver job right away. Rarely. It does happen. But you hear, like, a guy like Don Taylor. I don't, you know, Don Taylor, he's like, he had to go to Red Deer. He had to go here. It's just like, it's a grind of an industry. It is, people look at it as like, oh, you get to talk about your favorite things, or if you're lucky.
It's a grind. It's a process. Some people are lucky and they jump to the big city right away.
Yeah.
But you have to go where the jobs are. You have to go. You have to be willing. Again, you have to be willing to put in the work and get the experience. I know one reporter. I never formally met them, but they were at the radio station I was at in Prince George before I got there. Like, literally before I got in, I took their job as they were leaving. They were only there for 3 months. Before that, they were in Terrace for 1 month. Then they went to Halifax because they finally got a TV job. Then they went to Regina, and now they're in Calgary. They're putting in the work. They're going to the places. They are meeting people. They are telling the stories they need to know to not only improve themselves as a journalist and their resume as well, but they're catering to where the community needs to know what's going on.
Yeah.
I would love to work in Montreal if I wanted to. I don't speak French, but I would love to work there. I would love to even stay in Vancouver to be a part of a sports station or a big TV news station. Like, sports was what I first started, but then I realized that, you know what, the sports industry is very competitive, very minimal jobs. So you got to gain more experience, and BCIT, thank goodness, taught me that. It'd be nice to work in a bigger market, but I'm now on the mindset where, you know what, communities like Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam, Port Moody, and Belcara, they need their news too.
Yeah.
And sometimes the big mainstream medias, they'll report on, like, the bigger stories. Don't get me wrong, but when it comes to, like, those smaller ones that people actually do want to care about, then that's where we come in, and those are just as important as well.
I think they're even more important because it's bringing actual news from your area. Vancouver's close, obviously. We all know Vancouver's very close, half an hour down the road, 45 minutes.
There's a SkyTrain away, too.
But it's great. But what happens in Vancouver and what happens in the Tri-Cities can be vastly different. Like, it's not one and the same. So people need that dedicated news source and that just information brought to them about their actual community. When you travel the world, if you go travel somewhere and someone asks you where you're from, you say Vancouver most of the time. If you you don't go like Coquitlam, right? Like, it's just not. But when it comes to a localized, if you're in the Lower Mainland and you're talking to somebody, or you want to know information, you want to know where you're living, and there's people that let's hope, like, Tri-Cities is growing to a point where you don't need to go to Vancouver for anything, essentially. Back in the day, you had to, right? So it's people here need to get their actual information about here. And that's where I feel like, since you've come along, I feel like it's great that there's more online presence for younger people, that's how they see and learn learn basically what's happening in the Tri-Cities, because they weren't waiting for their paper every Wednesday or whatever. They weren't those, that's their parents. So now the people that are going to want to know about their community, if they're raising families in their communities, they want to know about what's happening here, and you guys are bringing it forward. I don't know what your guys' future holds with all these challenges when it comes to how you're going to go about promoting it on social media. I don't know if it's just a Meta thing right now, if it's
Meta and Google, and Google too. I mean, you can Google our website and it'll still pop up. But if you type in Porco Quitlam gets upgraded highway or whatever, you type that in, you may not find us right away, or you may not find us, period, because of the ban. But we are trying to find every new avenue possible to make sure the content gets out there. We still have our Twitter/X account. We just reached 1,000 followers on TikTok.
Nice.
So that's awesome. I don't
That's
even know
you, man.
That's some reason they wanted me in front of a camera.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't have a pretty face. I've always been told I have a face for radio. So well clearly. But yeah, we're getting there, and we will adapt to the industry as needed.
Yeah.
Because people need their news. If people want to ban us from sharing the news and the community news that's important to them, then we will look for other ways. And when that happens, we will let you guys know right away, because the industry is always evolving, always changing. It could change tomorrow.
Yeah.
For all we know.
Yeah.
So it's just we will adapt and we will adjust, and we will make sure everybody needs to know what they need to know, because we are here for a reason, and we need to make sure that everybody not only knows what's going on in their community, but loves their community. And people need to love where they live.
Yeah. So we'd love to help you guys out in any way too, where it's collaboration. We've always been just a huge fan of Tri-City News, your parent company, Glacier. We have a great relationship with them, and like just with what we do with our community, just how much you've talked about community, that's like our basis of everything we do, is building this community up. So it's like when it comes to ways around producing news, definitely we'd love to be a part of that if there's any way. Podcasting, I feel, is like there's a very gray area in podcasting, because I think you can still promote it. You can talk about the news, but you can't promote it as being the person like putting the news out there.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, those first 5 seconds of the podcast have to be good then. Otherwise, people are going to just move on.
Yeah, I know.
And again, that's where we're at right now. People are going to be scrolling, and the first 5 seconds of a video or the first 5 words of a sentence are not going to appeal to you. You're going to move on to the next one.
Yeah.
And that's the whole hype of digital journalism right now. I know with the paper, you can be hyper focused. You can actually take a time to focus on a certain story and read, but the story you're reading is more likely a week old now.
Yeah.
You're already behind.
Yeah.
So, so we do our best to adapt to that, and we try to make sure we are putting out a story or an article or an event you need to know that's going to appeal to you and to everybody else out there that really matters. The community matters.
Yeah.
And that's why we're here.
Yeah, 100%. So. I'm going to get into one more topic, and then just a rundown of where people can find you. Does that mean that, I just want to know about, like, with the X and Twitter thing, everybody has their opinions. Does that mean that he is the one guy that has agreed to go alongside the government and pay people properly? Or is he just saying, I don't care what these guys say?
Do we even know if he's aware of the situation?
He is. I've seen him post about I've heard him talk about a few different things.
I mean, I'm on Twitter, but there are times where I just need a mental break. We haven't heard anything about if he's sending money our way. Everybody knows who he is when we talk about he.
Big Elon.
Tony Stark's best friend. I'm a big Marvel fan, so there you go. That's the one. I wanted to get one Marvel reference in here at least. But anyway, I haven't really heard anything about if there is going to be money flowing our way, but he hasn't blocked us or hasn't banned news. So I guess we keep our fingers crossed that just doesn't happen. Money's great, but I mean, community is more important.
It is being able to promote.
I keep saying community, but that's just what it is.
The
That's what it is at the end of the
podcast
day.
name, man.
PoCommunity. There you go.
Yeah.
It's more important than anything else right now. And money can come secondary whenever. So, but as far as I understand, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, Musk, hasn't done anything to the extent of my knowledge.
Yeah.
So don't quote me on anything.
Yeah, it's mostly Google Meta. Yeah.
We have LinkedIn as well. We have videos on our YouTube. YouTube has kind of gone dormant a little bit for a while. Has it been for news sake?
It's
at least.
tough local, man.
We may have to bring it back, but it is tough local.
It's
You're
very
absolutely
tough
right.
local.
Yeah,
That's what
people they don't really search for like Coquitlam, Port Moody as much as they could.
Yeah.
So we may have to revitalize that.
That's kind of what we're trying to do too. It's
Maybe
like
that's where the collaboration comes in.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where the collab comes in.
Yeah, that's 100% what I'm thinking. Is it's definitely a way to promote is just video. We can change that. We can get people. The reason why they're not looking on YouTube for local is because it's never been there. That's my personal opinion.
No,
if I could look up Coquitlam, something like Coquitlam basketball or something, and new videos actually pop up constantly, I would go there instead of having to look on like pages of backsites.
Yeah.
So it's like it'd be very convenient and nice. That would be awesome if we could do that, and I think it could be a possibility. It's tough for big marketing like companies and stuff to. It sucks because we're all about community, but when it comes to numbers and stuff on YouTube, all the companies, sponsors, they want to see numbers. Well, if it's a community and it's just it's the Tri-Cities, your numbers aren't going to be international. So it's always it's that gray area where you got to figure out what those numbers are actually like. What's like pleasing? Like what's a. But if you have hundreds to thousands of views that are all local, that's still a plus. I don't care. That's all locally based eyes on your product, on whatever you're talking about. And I think it's if you just like what it would mean on a grand scale of things if like you were to take let's say Coquitlam was way bigger than it was, and you're getting those numbers, it would be that. And we want to be that where it's like if people want to learn anything about their community, there's somebody that we've interviewed that can give them the information they want. I love talking to you. Honestly,
I love talking to you too.
I think we
This has been a very awesome conversation.
I think we can get. I think we've gone over a little bit half hour. I don't care. I am very happy. I wish I could talk to you all day on the subject. I think. Independent journalism, and even though you're not technically, you're working for a company, but just independent journalism in a way where you're being that neutral is so key to today's times, and we don't want that to disappear.
No,
we've seen a lot of things disappear. We do not want that to disappear, and I think on a smaller level, when it comes to local or just even independent sites and stuff, I think journalists are going to have to keep their careers going with that realm of things. Just you're going to have to, and I feel like a lot of people are getting into it for the wrong reasons now, and it is that opinion-based journalism, which is great and all, but in reality, I don't think it should ever be used on a grand scale, because for the last few years, it seems like it's all one narrative, and if you don't agree with this, shut up and agree with it. And it's not going to work with a lot of people. I deal with business owners, small business owners every day, entrepreneurs. They're that for a reason. They're stubborn. Most of them are super stubborn.
They have a product to push.
They have a product to push. And when it's just, I see their anger and just things that don't make sense, and they're brilliant minds.
Don't get me wrong. They are at the top of their profession for a reason.
Yeah.
So, smart people. It takes smart people to run a business.
Yeah.
That's why I don't run a business. You do.
Yeah, and a lot of them are censored with their thoughts, and it's not even like the things that people think are the biggest problems in the world, or people that are having like just differences of opinion. It's really on basic things, and you don't want to be called a nut job or a conspiracy theorist if you feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's gotten, the whole idiot versus idiot thing. It's just it's so exhausting that you can't feel a certain way about even things that aren't hateful, that aren't like that. If it's hateful, let's get the hell out of here. But if it's just like everyday difference of opinion on something that really never affected us 5-10 years ago, why does it end friendships now? And it's just it's I feel like we're hopefully at a crossroads. I think people are finally starting to.
Yeah. I think we're heading that direction.
Yeah.
I have hope and optimism that we're heading in that kind of direction. Kind of the last couple of years of, if they continue to cool off a little bit, as it were.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, my sincere hope is that, if we can provide a local voice and a local source of what you need to know, why you need to know, that caters to everybody, that can present positivity, but also just informative journalism that keeps people sane and hopeful and hope and optimism. I think that's pretty key in all this. At least from my perspective, it is. And people just need that kind of thing nowadays. And I like to think that we are on that kind of trajectory. Just cross fingers that nobody steps on a leaf and changes it.
Yeah, 100%.
That timeline doesn't look good.
No, hey man, I honestly think to keep people informed in something, it's almost like in a weird way, Bill C-18 was a wake-up call for a lot of people today.
I think so.
I think it was definitely something like if they weren't questioning, they heard about it before, they weren't questioning, now they're definitely questioning it. And I think in reality it might be, after some time, might be a plus for your industry. Let's cross fingers that you do guys get what you deserve, but also there isn't so much government corruption when it comes to how you guys are promoted and what can be promoted. That's huge. I can't even begin to explain how I believe freedom of speech, to a certain point, like I said, no hate, but freedom of speech is crucial in today's times, and freedom of opinion is even bigger. Where you
freedom of press,
just people, freedom of press. That's a huge one, and I just appreciate what you do, and I appreciate how much I've seen you put in the effort of bringing Tri-City News up. And I believe you have when it comes to social media presence. And let's be completely honest, that's everything nowadays. When business, if you're just a content creator, anything, that's crucial. Yeah.
Well, so, we appreciate everything you guys do for all the things you just said: content creation, creativity, business people working together. It's co-working week, so people are collaborating for free, but professionally and just respectfully too. And that's where you guys come into play as well, and we respect you vice versa in exchange.
I appreciate it, man.
You guys keep up the great work. We'll do the best that we can.
You as well. And again, let everybody know where they can find Tri-City News information.
For sure. Tri-City News on Twitter/X. We are still on Facebook and Instagram. You may just not see us for now. Yeah. We're on TikTok, also at Tri-City News. If you want to find me, I'm also on most social media accounts, either at Kyle Balzer or at Kyle_Balzer. That's Balzer, not Blazer. That's Blazer, which gets misspelled a lot. Yeah. It'd be good for a radio DJ name.
It's a really good radio.
But we'll stick with
or you could get royalties from GMC. Or
Chevy. I never even thought of that before.
Yeah.
Am I in the market for a new car?
Yeah.
Maybe. I got a little one now.
Yeah, so. just take the emblem off and just put the letters beside each other so
for
it
sure.
is Balzer.
But yeah, no, feel free. I'm on team follow back most of the time. So just find us on the social media channels, on our website as well, tricitynews.com. We would really encourage everybody to continue to go to our website. It may look a little crowded at times, but it's only because we're trying to give you the content that you need to know, whether it's local, provincial, national, niche stuff, community, arts, music, sports. We are trying our best to make sure you are informed of what you need to know. So please continue to look us up at tricitynews.com. Follow us on our social media channels, again, at Tri-City News. And follow me at Kyle Balzer or at Kyle Balzer or at Kyle _Balzer, pardon me. And yeah, feel free to continue to follow us, and we'll do the best. Again, we'll do the best we can. We'll adapt.
Yeah.
We'll do the best we can.
Yeah, just people go to their site. Go to their site. Their website is going to give you the right information. And yeah, if it's
where you can also, if I may, also sign up for our daily and weekend newsletters, because of the limitations we have on Facebook and Instagram now, we have daily and weekend newsletters. The weekend newsletter I put together, it's kind of like a recap of the week that was. So if you want to like the short version of what you missed or short version of the news you may have missed, it's a great read in my opinion. And yeah, we just keep you informed on that. You can get it in your email in the mornings, every day of the week, sans Saturday. People need their weekends too. And yeah, that also helps us as well. So if you want to do that as well, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, definitely do that, guys. And I thank you so much, Kyle. Like,
thank you, Mike. I really appreciate the time.
I've been looking forward to this podcast for a while. Like, I wanted to have you on since we pretty much met. Like I'll say it a million times. Once I saw you come on with the Tri-City News, just the difference in promotion has been drastic. Not putting down anybody that had been there before or anything. It's just times are changing, and
they paved the way so that I can help.
And I've noticed
ever so humble.
I noticed a huge difference. Just a lot, like around the winter time, I saw a lot more of content just coming out, especially with
people love snow.
They do.
People are scared of snow, so that's why you need it.
But thank you so much, Kyle.
You're welcome.
Awesome.
It's my pleasure.
And enjoy a free co-working week here. That's
yes, absolutely, free co-working week. It's a blast.
Thanks, man. Well, thank you guys too as well. Thank you for listening and watching today's episode. Make sure to like and subscribe. And yeah, let us know if you want any more guests. And also put your comment down under this video or our audio version of the podcast, because we want to know what you think of today's podcast. It's definitely a very interesting one, and we'd love to hear your feedback. So yeah, leave it for us and have a good one.